Hello everyone! Welcome to use the Wings engine. This tutorial mainly introduces the use of the entire process of deploying using the deployment file. The deployment file is mainly used for private deployment of the project. Usually, it is combined with Wings Engine Viewer. Because it is an independent file, so it can be deployed in any network environment. Especially suitable for deployment in LAN environment. When we export the deployment file, we can choose to enable the project, home services, and advanced settings. These functions need to be used separately, are paid for with gold coins. The advantages of using the deployment file deployment method. Customers don't need to buy software packages, although some functions require to use them. However, compared to purchasing a package, it's cheaper. In addition, if customers need to modify later, they still need to find you. This can increase customer stickiness and maintenance and upgrading part of the income. The disadvantage is that when in advanced settings, when editing and modifying permissions are opened, customers can't edit. They may worry that every small change will contact you, which will increase the later maintenance costs. Next, I will introduce. There are two deployment methods, according to whether the editing permission. Whether to open the editing permission. There are two deployment methods. The first is to open the editing permissions of the file. The other party can continue to edit and modify. The second is that the other party cannot edit and modify the deployment file. These two methods can be set when exporting. Next, we will demonstrate the complete deployment file deployment process. Let's open a sample project first. Suppose this is a project we have done for a client. Because many customers' data is in the internet environment, we cannot directly access it. So when we started to make the project, we usually use Excel data. The format of this data will be consistent with the local data sources. Regarding the content of the project data, we will introduce in a dedicated tutorial to give you a detailed introduction. Then we click on the project. In the menu, Project Deployment, and select Export Deployment File. Then the project deployment window will open. We can set the deployment file, which includes basic settings and advanced settings. Let's first introduce the basic settings. When we export the deployment file, we need to authorize the project. The authorization object is the deployment terminal, which can be a computer or server. We need to install the Wings Engine Viewer. Install the Wings Engine Viewer. Then copy the project code and fill it in here. The same deployment terminal can deploy multiple projects. Each project code corresponds to a project authorization. The same project to the same. Each project code only needs to be authorized once and pay once. When modifying repeatedly later, as long as the project complexity is not changed, there will be no duplicate charges for exporting. The authorization validity period on the side shows forever. This means that the exported deployment file, the account package of Wings engine, whether the package has been purchased, whether the package is valid, the exported deployment file can continue to be used normally. Here we open the deployment, the Wings engine viewer in the terminal, and then switch to the project code interface. Copy an unused project code. Then go back to the Wings engine. Paste the project code here. Next, we need to select the deployment method. There are three ways. There are three deployment methods: final deployment, temporary deployment. If you choose a temporary deployment, we can set the project's validity period. The project will not be viewable after expiration. In addition, if the temporary deployment needs to be extended after expiration, you can choose to extend the temporary deployment here. Then set a new project expiration time. Usually, we suggest that before the final delivery of the project, we can deliver the temporary deployment file with a valid period, and then deliver the final permanent authorization deployment file. If you can determine the project code in the final deployment environment, we can use the project code of the local machine first, and then perform project migration. The content of project migration can refer to the tutorial. Finally, we can choose to enable the project OEM. This function will replace the navigation bar icon, loading logo, and login, and background images with your custom images. Click the Upload Materials button to open the OEM settings window. You can download the official provided reference materials for design. Then replace settings in the window, such as the display or hiding of the logo when loading the project, login background image, and so on. If we enable the project OEM, we need to pay for it. The fee will be settled through gold coins. We can recharge coins first, which will be automatically deducted here. Let me introduce the advanced settings to you. First is the viewer publishing settings. After deploying the files in the Wings engine viewer, you can publish the project. The functions are enabled here. The functions available in the viewer, including customs, links, and visitor management. When custom link is not set, every time you close and reopen web sharing, a new link address will be generated. Through this setting, you can not only ensure that the link address remains the same, but also customize the link address and make custom modifications. If there are multiple projects in the Wings Engine Viewer, using the same custom link, you need to cancel the web sharing of other projects or modify it to a different custom link. By setting in the Wings engine, the Visitor Management and Project Parameters function, then turn on the guest mode when sharing on the web. When opening the project link, you need to enter your account and password so that different people can see different pages or different data. Then there is the Advanced Data Source settings. After enabling this function, advanced data sources can be used in the project, such as WebSockets, webhooks, and DMS databases. Then there is the App Control settings. When you turn on this setting, when the deployment file is in Wings Engine after being imported into the viewer, when viewing in full screen, you can use Wings Engine app for demonstration control. The next is the Cloud Rendering settings. Cloud rendering is mainly for some front ends, devices with poor performance when opening the project, and the project itself is more performance-consuming, such as large-scale three-dimensional scenes, requires high performance of graphics cards. At this time, by enabling the cloud rendering function, render the project on a server with GPU. To reduce the hardware device configuration, the hardware device configuration requirements. Then we can also choose whether to open editing and modification permissions. After turning off this option, other accounts in Wings Engine, to import this deployment file, they cannot edit or modify the project. If this option is enabled, any other account can modify the project again. Finally, we can choose whether to convert the dynamic data source into a static data source if the project uses only local, dynamically accessible in a local area network, such as databases or apps. After exporting the deployment file and sending it to others, the other party cannot access these project data sources. They cannot view the project normally. At this time, we can choose this option. The system will automatically extract the the first 100 data of the dynamic data source, and convert it to a static JSON file, so that the other party can open the project normally. The above is the export deployment. All settings for exporting and deploying files. After the settings are completed, we click the Start Export button below. Save the deployment file with the extension of ddeploy. Then we open the Wings engine viewer. Click the Import Project button above. In the pop-up window, we select the deployment file we need to import. During the process of importing the deployment file, we can make relevant settings. First, we can turn on imports, and then open the project settings. If the current deployment environment is directly computer or server for viewing the project, we can check this option, so the imported project will be automatically opened. If the current deployment environment is just a server used to publish web links, especially if the server usually has no graphics card and the project cannot be opened, you can turn off this setting. On the right, we can also turn on the Restore Dynamic Data Source settings. This is corresponding to the above export settings. Whether to convert dynamic data sources to static data source. If this setting is enabled when exporting the project, then when importing the project, turn on the Restore Dynamic Data Source to restore the database in the project, or API data to local data sources. After the settings are completed, click the Import button below. After importing the project, web sharing is enabled by default. It will also be automatically generated. It will automatically generate a thumbnail for the project. Click the Edit Data menu. You can edit the data of the current project. We can add data sources or replace the existing data sources. The most commonly used scenario is when we deploy the project to the customer's local environment. We can add the customer's local real data source. Add the customer's local real data source. Suppose the customer's local. The local data source is the MISQL database. We click to add it. Then fill in the database connection information. Click Connect. Select the database to be added. And select the table to be added. The data format here should be consistent with Excel format. Finally, click OK. We can see that the MISQL database has been added. They are temporarily unused. Next, we click Replace Data Source again. This window will only show the data sources we have used. We need to check the data table we want to replace, and then click Next. In the new window, on the left, we can see the data sources currently used, the data that needs to be replaced. On the right, we select the data source to be replaced. For customers, it is the local real data source. As long as the data formats on both sides are consistent, the entire replacement process will be very simple. After selection, we click OK. This completes the data replacement process. We can also click and select the data source on the left and set the refresh frequency of the data source to achieve the effect of real-time data update. We can click on the project thumbnail button to view the project in full screen. Or click on the project, the Open Project button on the thumbnail. And then click the Full Screen button to view in full screen. If we export the project, we turn on App Control when exporting the project. Then, in the bottom toolbar, we can use the app for large and small screen interaction. In the Wings Engine Viewer, click the Publish button above the project thumbnail or the Publishing Status bar below to open the settings window for publishing the project. The settings here are the same as in the visualization of Wings Engine. Whether it can be set depends on the Wings Engine. Visualization exports deployment file whether the advanced options for viewer publishing settings. After publishing the project, you will get multiple access links. The system will prioritize one link. You can also select and switch here. For more details, please refer to the corresponding chapter tutorial. There are 2 points to note here. The first is that after enabling web sharing, the Wings Engine Viewer is acting as a server. So the project can be closed, but the software cannot be closed. Otherwise, it cannot be accessed. The second is that this link or embedded code-in can be accessed directly in a local area network. If you need to access it across networks, the computer with web sharing enabled, the computer server can be accessed from the internet. In this case, using cloud server is more suitable. For the details of web sharing, we will introduce in a separate tutorial. We will introduce in detail. Okay, that's how to use the Wings Engine. Visual export a deployment file, and then import the deployment file in the Wings Engine Viewer. and view the entire process of the project. That's all for today's tutorial. Thank you all.